Today we're exploring the Jesus Miracles Iceberg. At the top are the miracles most people know, but as we move deeper, things start to get more mysterious, more supernatural, and honestly, more mind-bending. Some of these you've heard 100 times, and others you might have never noticed, even if you've read the stories before. So let's start at the surface and work our way down. We'll start with the miracle almost everybody recognizes. At a wedding in Cana, the celebration runs out of wine. Rather than letting the moment fall flat, Jesus tells the servants to fill jars with water, and when they pour it out, it has become wine. Scripture even says, "You have saved the best wine until now." This isn't just a miracle for the sake of power, it actually reveals something. Jesus brings something better than what came before. Another famous moment is the feeding of the 5,000. A huge crowd follows Jesus into a remote place, and everyone realizes they're hungry with no food. Jesus takes 5 loaves and 2 fish, blesses it, and somehow there's enough food not only for everybody to eat, but with 12 baskets left over. It wasn't just a miracle of multiplication. It showed that God's provision is always more than enough. And then, looking at one of the most dramatic moments in the Gospels, Jesus walks on water. During a storm, the disciples see a figure approaching across the waves and realize it's Jesus. He says, "Take courage, it is I." Peter even steps out onto the water himself until fear overwhelms him, and Jesus catches him. This moment isn't just about defying physics. It's about trust. Another well-known miracle is Jesus healing the man born blind. He makes mud from dirt and his own spit, places it on the man's eyes, and tells him to wash in a specific pool. When he does, he sees for the first time in his life. These are the miracles most people know, but they're only the beginning. Now, let's move a little deeper, into miracles that are famous, but contain layers you might not have noticed the first time. In one moment, Jesus and his disciples are caught in a violent storm on the Sea of Galilee. The waves are crashing, and everyone is terrified. Jesus simply speaks the words, "Peace, be still," and instantly everything becomes calm. The disciples look at each other in shock and say, "Who is this? Even the wind and waves obey him." They weren't just amazed at the miracle. They were realizing who he really was. Another dramatic moment happens when a young girl dies, and Jesus goes into the room where her body is. He takes her by the hand and says, "Little girl, get up," and she does. Imagine the emotional swing her parents experienced in that moment. It's one thing to heal sickness. Raising the dead is another level entirely. We also see a paralyzed man lowered through the roof by his friends because the crowds are blocking every entrance. Jesus tells him, "Get up, take your mat, and walk." The man stands up in front of everyone. These miracles begin revealing a deeper authority, not just healing bodies, but restoring lives. Okay, those are powerful, but now we're moving into territory that many people simply skip over. This is where the iceberg starts feeling mysterious. One fascinating event happens when the disciples have been fishing all night and caught absolutely nothing. Jesus tells them to try again, and suddenly their nets are so full they're beginning to break. Peter falls at Jesus' feet in awe, because he realizes he's not just standing in front of a wise teacher. He's standing before someone divine. There's another moment during Jesus' arrest when Peter cuts off a soldier's ear in a chaotic attempt to defend Jesus. Jesus immediately heals the man. Think about that. Even during his own arrest, Jesus shows mercy to the person coming to take him away. That detail is so easy to miss, but it reveals so much about his character. Now we're entering the part of the iceberg that honestly feels strange, supernatural, and even a little uncomfortable. One of the most intense moments in Scripture involves a man possessed by many demons. They identify themselves by saying, "My name is Legion, for we are many." Jesus commands them to leave, and they go into a herd of pigs, which immediately rush into the sea. The reaction isn't celebration. The people beg Jesus to leave their region because they're overwhelmed by what they've just witnessed. There's also the miracle of the coin in the fish's mouth. When taxes are due, Jesus tells Peter to cast a line, and the first fish he catches will have a coin inside, just enough to pay what is owed. This isn't just financial provision, it shows complete authority over creation itself. At this point, we're deep below the surface. These miracles are rarely preached on and often overlooked. This is where things get mysterious and symbolic. Jesus once looks at a fig tree that has no fruit, and he pronounces a curse on it. The tree withers. This miracle isn't random, it's symbolic. It represents spiritual fruitfulness, judgment, and a coming change. It's a miracle with a message attached. Another mysterious moment occurs when an angry crowd attempts to throw Jesus off a cliff. Scripture simply says, "He passed through the midst of them, and he walks away unharmed." It's written as if time slows, or people are blinded, or Jesus simply becomes untouchable. We don't know how it happened, only that he walked away when escape seemed impossible. Now we reach the bottom of the iceberg. Miracles that reveal something about who Jesus truly is at his core. At the Transfiguration, Jesus takes Peter, James, and John up a mountain, and suddenly his entire appearance changes. His face shines like the sun, his clothes become bright white, and Moses and Elijah appear beside him. A voice from heaven says, "This is my son, listen to him." It's a moment where his divine identity becomes visible. Then we see Jesus raise Lazarus, who had been dead for 4 days. Jesus stands at the tomb and calls out, "Lazarus, come out!" And Lazarus walks out alive. This isn't just healing, this is dominion over death. Finally, the most important miracle of all, Jesus is crucified, dies, and is buried. After 3 days, he rises from the dead and appears to many witnesses, eating, speaking, and walking among them. Believers throughout history have seen this moment as the ultimate defeat of death and the cornerstone of Christianity itself. These miracles changed history, some familiar, some forgotten, some very mysterious. But they all reveal something about the power and identity of Jesus. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want more deep dives into Scripture, biblical mysteries, and iceberg-style Christian content, make sure to subscribe to the channel. There's a lot more beneath the surface.